In post-war Brooklyn, a young writer falls in with a magnetic, troubled couple, a brilliant American man and a Polish refugee haunted by a secret from the war. Sophie's Choice, 1982, is built around what many call the single greatest screen performance of all time. Meryl Streep plays the fragile, luminous survivor, Sophie. Kevin Kline plays her volatile lover, Nathan. Peter McNicol plays the wide-eyed young writer, Stingo. Director Alan J. Pakula adapted it from a landmark novel. Sophie drifts down the staircase of a pink Brooklyn boarding house, pale and unforgettable. Behind this devastating film lies an actress who learned 2 languages, begged for the part on her knees, and gave more of herself than almost anyone ever has. 20 facts counting down. Fact 20. Meryl Streep begged for the role on her hands and knees. Streep wanted to play Sophie more than any part in her life. When she learned Pakula was casting it, she pursued him relentlessly. By some accounts, she literally got down on her knees to plead for it. On screen, that hunger becomes total transformation. Sophie speaks, moves, and grieves like a real Polish refugee. Sophie seems to carry the whole weight of the war in her eyes. An actress fought desperately for the role that would define her career. Fact 19. She wasn't the first choice and huge stars wanted it. It's hard to imagine anyone else as Sophie now. Yet Barbra Streisand and others openly chased the very same role. The novel's own author even favored a completely different actress. On screen, Streep erases every doubt in an instant. Sophie captivates everyone around her from her very first scene. Sophie makes her fragility feel utterly, achingly real. A part several stars fought over became unthinkable as anyone but Streep. Fact 18. Streep learned to speak fluent Polish for the part. Sophie is a Polish immigrant, and Streep refused to fake it. She spent about 3 months learning to actually speak Polish. She wanted every single syllable to ring completely true. On screen, the effort is astonishing. Sophie slips between languages as naturally as breathing. Sophie's every word carries the music of her homeland. An American actress taught herself a whole new language for one role. Fact 17. She also mastered German with a Polish accent. Learning Polish wasn't nearly enough for Streep. She also learned to speak German for the film's harrowing war scenes. Astonishingly, she performed that German with a layered Polish accent on top. On screen, the result stuns even native speakers. Sophie switches tongues under pressure without a single false note. Sophie's voice shifts with her fear and her memory. A feat of accent work like this had rarely been attempted before. Fact 16. She learned the language from a film crew member. Streep didn't hire some famous celebrity coach. She picked up much of her Polish from an assistant on the film who happened to speak it. Day by day, she absorbed the language right there on set. On screen, that intimacy pays off beautifully. Sophie sounds like she was born speaking it. Sophie's accent never slips for even a moment. A quiet crew member helped shape one of cinema's greatest performances. Fact 15. Streep transformed her body for the war scenes. Part of the film shows Sophie's ordeal in a Nazi camp. To capture that horror, Streep lost a great deal of weight to look frail and starved. She pushed her own body to serve the truth of the role. On screen, the transformation is heartbreaking. Sophie appears gaunt and hollow-eyed in the camp flashbacks. Sophie seems to physically shrink under the weight of her suffering. An actress reshaped herself entirely to honor a survivor's pain. Fact 14. The camp flashbacks were filmed in Yugoslavia. The Brooklyn scenes were shot in New York, but the war was different. For the concentration camp sequences, the production traveled to Yugoslavia. There, they recreated the grim reality of Sophie's past. On screen, that authenticity gives the flashbacks their power. Sophie moves through the camp in the striped uniform of a prisoner. Sophie's memories return in cold, gray, unbearable detail. A faraway location helped the film face one of history's darkest chapters. Fact 13. Kevin Kline was making his very first film. Nathan is one of the most electric characters in the movie, yet Kevin Kline in the role had never appeared in a film before. He came straight from the stage and dove into the demanding part. On screen, you would never guess he was a newcomer. Nathan swings from dazzling charm to frightening rage in a heartbeat. Nathan lights up every room, then darkens it just as fast. A first-time film actor delivered one of the year's most talked-about performances. Fact 12. Streep cast her own co-star before she got the part. Here's the twist most people completely miss. Streep recommended Kevin Kline to Pakula before she was even cast herself. She had seen his stage work and championed him for Nathan. On screen, that instinct proved perfect. Nathan and Sophie ignite the screen with volatile magnetic chemistry. Sophie clings to Nathan through his every wild swing. An actress helped pick the co-star who would match her scene for scene. Fact 11. Only one character in the whole film was real. Nearly everyone in the story is fictional, invented for the novel. But one figure was drawn straight from history. The Auschwitz commandant, Rudolf Höss, was a real and infamous Nazi official. On screen, his presence grounds the horror in fact. Sophie is forced into the orbit of that real monstrous man. Sophie must survive a world ruled by genuine evil. A single true figure anchored the film's fiction in terrible reality. Fact 10. The most devastating scene left Streep physically ill. The heart of the film is a single, unbearable memory from Sophie's past. Filming it was so emotionally shattering that Streep felt physically sick afterward. She poured everything she had into that one wrenching moment. On screen, it is almost too painful to watch. Sophie relives the worst instant of her entire life. Sophie's face collapses under a grief beyond words. An actress gave so much to one scene that it made her ill. Fact 9. The story came from a controversial novel. Sophie's Choice was adapted from a celebrated book by William Styron. The novel stirred real debate for its unusual take on the war. It centered on a Polish Catholic survivor, exploring guilt and the cost of survival. On screen, that focus gives the film its haunting depth. Sophie carries a survivor's guilt that never lets her go. Sophie's suffering lingers long after the war has ended. A bold, debated novel became one of cinema's most powerful dramas. Fact 8. The film's narrator is the author himself. The story is told through the eyes of a young Southern writer, Stingo. That character is really a stand-in for the novelist, William Styron. Stingo's journey mirrors Styron's own youth in post-war Brooklyn. On screen, he is our window into Sophie's world. Stingo watches, spellbound, as Sophie and Nathan draw him in. Stingo slowly uncovers the truth that Sophie has been hiding. An author quietly wrote himself into his own devastating story. Fact 7. The same cinematographer shot Kramer versus Kramer. The film's soft, painterly look came from Nestor Almendros. Almendros had just shot Streep's previous triumph, Kramer versus Kramer. His warm, natural light gives the Brooklyn scenes their glow. On screen, that beauty makes the darkness hit harder. Sophie is bathed in golden light in her happiest moments. Sophie glows on the screen, even as tragedy circles her. A master cinematographer helped make her suffering unbearably beautiful. Fact 6. The director called her the closest thing to genius. Alan J. Pakula had worked with many great actors in his long career. He said watching Streep was the nearest he had ever come to seeing genius in acting. Coming from a veteran director, it was extraordinary praise. On screen, it's easy to see exactly what he meant. Sophie feels less like a performance than a real breathing soul. Sophie's every gesture carries impossible layers of feeling. A seasoned director watched an actress reach a level few ever touch. Fact 5. It won Streep her second Academy Award. Just 3 years after her first Oscar, Streep triumphed again. This time, she won Best Actress, her first in a leading role. It confirmed her as the defining actress of her generation. On screen, the win feels almost inevitable. Sophie holds the entire film together with quiet, shattering force. Sophie makes the audience feel every ounce of her pain. A single role earned Streep the crown she would wear for decades. Fact 4. The film earned 5 Academy Award nominations. Streep's win was the headline, but the film was honored widely. It collected 5 Oscar nominations in all. Those included cinematography, costumes, music, and the adapted screenplay. On screen, that craft surrounds Sophie beautifully. Sophie moves through richly detailed, gorgeously lit scenes. Every frame is designed to draw you deeper into her world, A film built around one performance was a work of art all over. Fact 3. The whole performance rests on a flawless accent. Streep's Polish accented English is a marvel all its own. Native Polish speakers were reportedly stunned by how authentic it sounded. Not a single vowel or rhythm ever rings false. On screen, that voice becomes the very soul of the character. Sophie's halting musical English draws you completely into her world. Sophie sounds like she truly lived every word of her past. An accent so perfect, it became one of acting's great feats. Fact 2. Even her fellow legends were in awe. Streep's peers watched this performance with something like wonder. The great Diane Keaton called her simply my generation's genius. Her young co-stars spoke of learning from her every day on set. On screen, that brilliance towers over everything. Sophie commands the film with total quiet authority. Sophie makes acting itself look like breathing. An actress left even Hollywood's finest in complete admiration. Fact 1. This is the role that crowned the greatest actress of all time. For all its heartbreak, the film endures because of one performance. Streep poured a lifetime of skill and feeling into Sophie. Decades later, it remains the standard by which screen acting is judged. On screen, that greatness is undeniable. Sophie's story breaks your heart and never quite lets it heal. Sophie stands as one of cinema's most unforgettable creations. A single fearless performance turned a devastating story into an immortal film. From learning 2 languages to reshaping her own body and giving everything to a single unbearable scene, Meryl Streep made Sophie's choice unforgettable. A devastating story became a monument to what acting can be. Subscribe for more secrets hiding inside the films you thought you knew. Some performances don't just move you, they change what's possible.